the greater love experience. Welcome to the house of the Lord, where the people praise His name. Welcome to the house of the Lord, where the word of God's proclaimed. Come on, get ready for the greater love experience. Are you ready for the greater love experience? Today is the day the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be happy. Oh, how amazing God has been to everyone who needs Him. We offer love to you and all the joy we can give to. We welcome you to receive this love experience. Welcome to the house of the Lord, where the people praise His name. Welcome to the house of the Lord, where the word of God's proclaimed. Come on, get ready, for the greater love experience. Are you ready for the greater love experience?
Jesus is my keeper. Jesus is my king. Wonderful counselor. He's the Prince of Peace. Come on, get ready for the greater love experience.
Good evening, Great Love. Good evening, Facebook family. We greet you with Jesus' joy. As my sainted friend, our sainted friend, would say, we greet you with Jesus' joy, joy that the world cannot give, joy that the world cannot take away. It is my honor and my privilege to address you tonight, as God has so richly blessed us to see another observance of Black History Month. Here at Great Love Church, the Lord has inspired us for such a time as this, to bring you together tonight. So I'm asking you to share, if you will, please, and especially the young pastor preacher, senior pastor preacher, parishioners and all, as we're going to engage in Real Talk tonight. This begins our Real Talk series that's going to take us through Black History Month. And I'm so delighted tonight to have one of my friends, one of my brothers, much beloved of 30 years in the person of the Reverend Dr. Joe Willis Theus. He's going to share tonight. We're going to do a little bit of reflection and reminiscing on those preachers and pastors who have influenced us, who have impacted our lives. And so as we give to you each installment each week, we want to make sure that our guests have the opportunity, more so than I, as I will interject periodically, but they're going to have the opportunity to share with you pretty much their story. And we appreciate the preacher, the teacher, the magnitude of pastor that this, my friend and brother, is. And so we're going to let him introduce himself to all of you and give you the information he wants you to have at this time. We celebrate Reverend Dr. Joe Willis Theus.
I am so delighted to be a recipient of such an hour of interest at this time in our history. To be a part of the Greater Love Church in any fashion is certainly a delight. The ministry that we share in today's light and in today's darkness as well is one to be cherished and one to embrace. And I am excited. I'm enjoying the journey, and I am just praying that God's blessings will just continue to flow through us as we share with the people who are before us at this time.
Dr. How many years have you been preaching, and give us some information as to when you began your preaching journey?
The Lord said the same. This November will be 50 years of preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, of which I am extremely excited about. My early beginning in the city of Houston started at my conversion on a Thursday night in my bedroom. between the hours of 9 and 10 p.m. And that has been such a view of kingdom
Oh, Lord.
gathering
Oh, Lord.
that I can't ever push aside.
Hold on, hold on. You expressed to me in our travels all over this country together, in convention works and the like, revivals and all the things we've involved ourselves in. I often hear you mention people who have helped to make, shape, and mold you. I know that God calls us and God equips us. I know that He also works with human agents and people that He places in our path to kind of help us to get where He wants us to be. You mentioned a man by the name of Reverend F.L. Dickey, Mount Zion Baptist Church in Houston, Texas.
Yes, sir. Pastor F.L. Dickey trained me, I would say, in the scriptures.
Okay.
Immediately after my conversion and acknowledging that my call to ministry, I was led to that church. I did not know anybody in that church. The Spirit just took me and guided me down the street, and I came to 2301 Nagle Street,
Oh, my.
where Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church was located. I entered the building. It was at night. It was during the time when we had church at night.
Yeah.
So it was exciting. I entered the building. The people were there that were singing, praying, and shouting. I listened to the sermon
Wow.
that night, and the pastor extended the invitation, and I got up out of my seat and went to the front, and I said to the pastor, I had been called to preach, and I didn't know what to do.
At the same time of your conversion, you also felt the call to preach.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's
After
awesome.
the struggle,
Yeah.
after
Okay.
running
Okay.
and trying to hide, and he embraced me. He embraced me right then on the spot. And it was the strangest thing, Pastor, because we never laid eyes on each other. But he told me that God had something for me to do.
My.
And there I was.
Okay. And you stayed with Pastor Dickey until
His death.
his death.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pastor
How long did y'all?
From 1973 until 1977.
Oh, my. Okay. Okay. So you moved from that relationship, since God took him from labor to reward, to a relationship with Reverend F.A. Allen. That's a familiar name, yes. That's
Yeah.
Dr. John Carlton Allen's dad, and certainly that's Pastor Joel Allen's grandfather. And so that's the Greater Rose Hill Baptist Church. Will you share with us about Dr. Allen?
The late F.A. Allen was a awesome preacher. He could walk through his sermon and put you on the scene and explain every movement of it.
Wow.
He was an amazing preacher.
Wow.
And he shared with me as a young preacher that there would be times of discouragement, and he explained the misfortune of the ministry in such a way. It was not negative,
Mm-hmm.
but it was real. What to expect and what not to expect, and how to handle your disappointments. And he was a treasure to my ministry.
Okay.
For the years I served under him as the youth pastor
Okay.
of that church.
Great. How long did you serve in that capacity?
Strangely, Pastor, less than 2 years.
Okay. Okay.
A strange thing happened between he and my next pastor. That was an unusual shift in my ministry at such an early age. I didn't understand it, but it was as though something took my hand and said, this is the direction that you're going.
You saw that both the pastor that we're going to mention next and the pastor that you were with at the time
Yes, sir.
had your best interests at heart in terms of that transitional phase in your life. Okay? Because I had the opportunity to meet both them, as well as Dr. Crawford Kimball of the Good Hope Baptist Church. In fact, got a chance to hear him a few times as well. So what would you tell the people in the audience about Dr. Crawford Kimball?
Dr. Crawford Kimball was a crafty person as it relates to preaching. He could stand on his feet in about 20 minutes, reach his height, and sit down.
Oh my.
And one of his things were for young preachers, especially was listen,
Okay.
learn what to do. Another thing was he would tell me, study preaching and try to hear every good preacher that you can. And he was instrumental in building sermons. He said that you would hear sermons everywhere, but the best way to learn how to put a sermon together is build it yourself.
Great info. How would you then, in terms of preaching styles, are those three distinct preaching styles in terms of Dr. Dickey, Allen, and Crawford Kimball? Those preaching styles, can you explain a little bit about what their differences were?
Yes.
What their differences are? Telling us to be a little louder, so I guess we have to use our daddy voices, Pastor Theus. So the question then is, as much as we spend time together, our styles are different. Okay. What did you notice different from these three?
Reverend Pastor F.L. Dickey was a very unique preacher. He mastered, and this is one thing that I noticed as a young preacher.
Okay.
He mastered funerals.
Wow.
The strangest thing to me, F.L. Dickey could preach a funeral and make you want to die.
Oh Lord.
He
Because
was
heaven
just
was
that good. I never heard it like that before in my life, the way he presented it.
Oh Lord.
I mean, he would have, folk would be shouting at the funeral.
Yes, sir.
And it was just something. He had a way of approaching the text and putting heaven in your lap.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
And I
That's
thought, wow.
awesome.
The other thing about Pastor Dickey was he was a great worshiper.
Okay. Okay.
A great worshiper. In the worship service at the Mount Zion Baptist Church on Nagel Street, you knew you were in worship, and it was all about God.
Okay.
It was not about you.
Oh my.
Not about you at all.
Okay.
Pastor F.A. Allen was a master at explaining his sermon to you as he presented it.
Okay.
You could understand him from the beginning all the way to the end.
Okay.
He glued himself to that sermon
Oh Lord.
into such a way there was no unattaching him
Okay.
to where he was going in the sermon.
Okay.
He was an excellent teacher
Okay.
regarding how to present and explain a sermon.
Okay.
Now, Pastor Kimball of the Good Hope Baptist Church, he was very creative. He was very interesting. Each of them were very informative.
Okay.
Very informative in the presentation of a sermon. Pastor Woody Kimball was a great pulpiteer. His mannerism in the pulpit had your attention. Every minute of the worship was interesting.
Okay.
He kept the interest. And when you left the worship service, you left with the sermon. it was understood, it was clarified, it was interesting. He made you want to preach.
Okay, good. Tell us then, who is Dr. Joe Willis Theus, based on what these people instilled in you?
Dr. Joe Willis Theus is to this day, a learner of everything.
Wait. Say that again, please. Say it loud for the people in the back.
Dr. Joe Willis Theus is a learner.
What?
To this very day.
Okay.
Through each pastor that I served under, pumped my experience of wanting to be a good preacher for the right reasons. Interesting, as a young preacher, there is a eagerness, hopefully to grow.
Yeah.
Following those three persons, this eagerness in preaching, through each of them, you learned balance.
Okay.
Whereas your eagerness was never out of context.
Oh, wow.
And this is why I said that Joe W. Theus is a learner, because I am still listening and I am still interested in what preaching is.
Okay. So we're living in time of shifting cultures. We're living in a day where the worship experience, though it has always in some respects been different. Sometimes it had to do with denominational ties. Sometimes it had to do with the personality of the preacher. Sometimes it had to do with if the church was more about singing than they were preaching. And I think we can just go through a gamut of reasons why things were different and why there was a shifting that has taken place. But I'm wondering what you're seeing now that perhaps you did not see as a boy or as a young preacher.
What I'm seeing now is a detachment from the reality of what preaching really consists of. It's not exactly, but it's somewhat similar to that experience in the Bible that we share all the time in 1 Corinthians. A personality shift in observing different personalities of Apollos, Peter, or Paul. Which way do you lean? And it has caused, in my view, somewhat of a detachment that I hope can be resolved, so that we can all see the true meaning of what it means to preach the gospel.
Okay, so you talk like 1 Corinthians 18. The preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but to us which are saved, it is the power of God.
Yes.
Preaching defined in different ways, I guess. But if the young preacher, perhaps part of our cast tonight, Reverend White, would come to you and say, Dr. Theus, will you give me your definition of preaching? What would you say?
Oh, thank you for that. And I want to say it in a trusting way.
Okay.
I would say to him, sir, learn who you are in respect to your call. Know for certain what you have been called to do.
Okay.
And take an interest in what you have been called to do, not by way of application for personal satisfaction,
Hold on.
because we have not been called to make each other happy.
Pastor.
But above everything, have in view who Jesus Christ is to you. And I believe that can be the beginning for someone who has been called to preach the gospel, to really take off running.
Okay.
Not running into, I would say, the idea of preaching, but meeting it head on as to what it really is.
Okay. Okay. So because we're sharing Black History Month, dealing with the black preacher and the black church, I could give you 100 names right off the top of my head of persons that I've not just heard preach, but people we've interacted with over the years in respect to that. I'm going to ask that those of you who are sharing, or those of you who are experiencing this time tonight, to take an opportunity to offer the names of pastor preachers who have influenced you. I'm going to try to see some of those names as I'm trying to look on my phone to determine those names that you present by God. For Black History Month, I know you have some. I know those of you that are listening. I think earlier I saw a response to what we're doing tonight by third rector, whose dad was definitely an influence on my life. But I would like those persons to continue to post on this site tonight those names of those influential preachers and pastors who are part. Is he on now? Okay, any of those who are on, if you would just give us the name of those persons who've been influential in your ministry. Just say their names tonight. Reverend F.J. Hobbs, you're listening. Amen. That's one of your former co-pastors in the city of Victoria, Texas. Amen. And so if you will, please list those names. A blessing to being able to know Fred John Henry Hobbs and then have known his dad as well.
Amen.
Says something to me that not only is that a blessing, but it also says I'm old. to have been able to experience, man, my dad's appreciation for W.I. Rector, who my dad says in his time, one of the most brilliant men he ever heard preach, that would give us songs like Gospel Mission, Use Me, Lord, in Thy Service. Jesus said, you got to know that's Gospel Mission. He keeps my soul, to do those types of things that are still resonating in the church, that still believes in hymns and spirituals, to then sit under that man's sun and then have an opportunity to sow into you know what I'm saying, sow into the third generation of rectors. It was just an amazing feat. I say that also, Dr. R.L. Shields Sr. Just, okay, so you have R.L. Shields Jr., Paul Shields, the celebrated Paul. All of us have in time. L.H. Mills, Larry Mills, Danny Mills. All of these fellows, I've lived long enough to be able to interact with so many of them, to know of old man Allen, and then to know Dr. John Carlton Allen, who was probably one of the most innovative fellows here in San Antonio. Even as I can think of so many more, Dr. Sam James, Dr. Clive William Black. That man, is just so many, just names that we've seen. Thinking of across the nation, the last pulpit sermon that I heard of Dr. George V. Clark was here in Great Love's pulpit.
Yeah.
Just all those memories. I think that being raised in the house with a pastor preacher was probably one of the most unique experiences you could ever have. My dad was multi-talented, multi-gifted. He could do it all. And so by his being able to do all things that he could do, I always wanted to be able to do it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I realized that no student is greater than his teacher. And however, I still feel that everything I've accomplished that maybe he didn't in his time, I owe it as a debt of gratitude to him and all I do. But, you know, when we sit on stage at conventions, that's these fellas who put us up there.
Yeah.
You know, when we're preaching in national conventions, those guys, when we're doing revivals and citywide and things of that nature, organizing church, back, all those people have sown into us. And so that there are some pastors that are on now with us, and I want to acknowledge those persons who are on them. We have Pastor Sampson. Is that
Yep.
junior or that's senior? Dr. F.T. Sampson, junior or senior, y'all help me. That's Reverend Dr. Aaron Bradsfield Jr., who incidentally, Reverend Aaron Bradsfield Jr. is the one who introduced Dr. Theus and ourselves. We were working in our state convention together.
Amen.
Breakfast in Beaumont, Texas at Elegante Hotel is where Dr. Theus and I met. Shortly after that, I was in revival for you. You then in turn came here with me.
Yes. Yes.
Who else is on there tonight that we can see? That they're bringing the names of Reverend E. Thurman Walker, who was a friend and brother, much beloved. You can connect that to that annual piece. I could even go farther than even just connecting Dr. Walker to that whole annual piece, because I can go back to Dr. Rufus Wilson.
Yeah.
I can go back to Dr. P.S. Wilson,
P.S. Wilkes.
who scared me to death.
Yeah.
And he was probably the nicest man you ever want to meet.
Mm-hmm.
But he scared me. It was something about his presence.
Yeah.
Those old pastors, those old preachers,
Yeah.
had that kind of presence.
Presence.
And
That's what
depth.
it was.
Huh? Was that what it was?
It was
Yeah.
presence.
How did you feel about being around those guys?
One in particular, F.D. Sampson, father.
Okay.
And there is an amazing thing. We became friends later on.
Okay.
But I would sneak and listen to church at Friendship Baptist Church and hear F.D.'s father, Dr. Harry B. Sampson Sr.
Wow.
preach.
Wow.
But when I would see him personally, I would get on the other side of the street.
Share them. Hit the four boys. Can you get the four sons?
And later on in life, when I grew up and became a preacher,
Yeah.
we connected.
Okay.
I connected with H.B. Sampson
Gotcha.
Jr.,
Yes, sir. Okay.
Asa,
Yes.
Wesley Sampson,
Yes, sir.
F.D.
Yes, sir.
Sampson,
Yes,
and
sir.
Reuben
Reuben,
Sampson.
yes, sir.
And not only the brothers, but the sisters.
See, you got one up on me there.
I
didn't
met
notice
the
it.
mother.
Okay.
And other people in the family. But those four preaching brothers,
Okay.
we grew strong in fellowship.
Okay.
I mean, more than fellowship, friendship.
Okay.
And each one of them played an important role in my life as a pastor, preacher, and person
Okay.
up until this very day.
Dr. Ashton Brown, Senior.
Ashton Brown, Senior.
To have been given the opportunity to preach for him as a boy, and then to be able to experience what his sons are doing. I'm going to say this again because somebody corrected me at the table one night, but this is what the older of the Brown boys and I, we ran track together in middle school, and I know what his name is, but when we were running track, we called him Fly. Yeah,
I heard that
glad you.
before.
Yeah, we ran track. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were pretty good track, pretty good in track. And but to see that now he acknowledged his call. You got another son, Junior, who is one of the most gifted musicians you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
You got two leading in the nation pastors in Michael and Ray Brown. You know, longevity really does have its place. It has afforded me some opportunities. I'll even give you one further. My dad, Dr. G. Gillespie Sr., was not the first Gillespie pastor in San Antonio. Had there not been a Claudine Gillespie, Reverend Claudine Gillespie, Pastor Claudine Gillespie, there would not have been a W.G. Gillespie in San Antonio.
Okay.
So if there had not been a W.G. Gillespie in San Antonio, there would not be a L.J. Gillespie in San Antonio. You know, I think as much as there are so many who would want to suggest that they are who they are on their own, man, all of us come from somebody.
Exactly.
You know, everybody and somebody has poured into us to help us. Amen. Dr. Emmett Smith, amen, who pastored in succession to the church at Progressive, where my dad pastored his first church.
And J.S. Smith.
Amen. Then you got Benjamin, Elijah Mays. You got Reverend J.S. Smith.
J.S. Smith.
I have had,
New Life.
yeah, I have had, yes, Dr. J.S. Smith at New Life. I met him first in Victoria.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pastoring, right? He's pastoring in
Pastor
Victoria.
St. Peter's Baptist.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, it sounds familiar.
Sound familiar.
Because you pastor.
Very familiar.
So the first time I met him, that's what happened there. Is there a loss in camaraderie that those patriarchs, I guess we can call them, is there a loss in the camaraderie that they have compared to what's going on today?
Yes, sir. My heart is really open to that experience again.
Okay.
The younger pastor, whether younger preacher, whether pastor or not, had great respect for those men.
Okay.
And those men had great love for those younger preachers, whether preacher or pastor.
Yeah.
One great example is Paul and
Talk to
Timothy.
me. Yes, sir.
Paul noted Timothy as a genuine son.
Son, yes, sir.
A
Absolutely.
genuine son,
Absolutely.
who at the end of his missionary journey, writing this letter of 2 Timothy in prison to Timothy, I could feel and sense the bleeding of the heart of both of them.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Timothy in tears for the change of a senior pastor.
Yeah.
Senior pastor in tears
Oh, Lord.
for the departure from a young Timothy.
Yeah.
Where did it go?
Where'd it go?
What happened?
That's a good question. What has happened?
What happened?
And certainly to the defense of many of the young pastor preachers in the city who rather we deserving of it or not, who pay homage to us, and I don't mean homage in the way of suggesting that they glorify us. I mean homage in respect for the tenure,
Exactly.
if nothing else. I'm here. If I'm not good, if I'm not the best, I'm here. So because I was here when you got here, to have those kinds of persons, many of those names of preachers and pastors that I mentioned tonight give us respect for our tenure.
Yes.
And yet, in the midst of that, I think there's a challenge for us to try to promote again that kind of camaraderie that brought about some things I saw. Things that perhaps I was not supposed to see. I could see senior pastors have a disagreement.
Yes, sir.
We saw them on convention floors.
Yes, sir.
Stand up for what they believe. I mean dogmatic about what they believe. I mean to the point of almost, throwing blows. At the conclusion of that meeting, when everything was resolved, they could go to lunch together.
Exactly.
They could go outside and talk together. They could get in the same car and drive off.
Exactly.
What is this thing that causes so many nowadays, and I guess we're wrapping up, but what is this thing that nowadays causes this kind of perpetual disregard and dislike for unity and camaraderie?
May I repeat something?
Okay.
Because I really feel this in my heart. I mentioned earlier the eagerness
Okay.
of the younger preacher
Okay.
and balance.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And I really believe that has a lot to do
Okay.
with some of the, I don't want to call them issues,
Okay.
but the loss of connection.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
you can be eager about something that's really not for you.
Wow. Wow.
But the older preacher had a way of leading you to balance, whereas that eagerness will not cause you harm.
Wow. Good point. Good point. I'm also acknowledging the fact that there are also we miss some stuff sometimes. I think that some of what some of the bandful, okay, for instance, what I was sharing with Brother White earlier, when we talk about Dr. Obi Piper and what Mom initiated from. Mom was to dispel the banful and unethical experiences of the young preacher, steering them toward leadership through education. And that was a passion of Dr. Piper's was to develop again that kind of relationship that brought Paul and Timothy together.
Yes.
It brought Elijah and Elisha together, and I believe that we gave a lot of time trying to bring his vision to fruition.
Yes, sir.
And sowing into younger pastors, our new pastors. You don't have to be young to be new.
Right.
Exactly. You can be new and be a grown man or of age. But the issue has been that burden. I don't know, and I guess this is perhaps where we'll conclude tonight. And I want you to come back when we talk next week.
Okay.
Incidentally, I've got some more preacher pastors that are coming. I've got Dr. Carl Johnson coming, retired preacher, Pastor Dr. Carl Johnson coming. We also are looking forward to Bishop Jonathan Ellis being with us. So everybody's not going to be old and beat up like us. There's some younger fellas coming too. There are some more names I won't list at this time because I'm still in that finalizing that they're coming and getting permission for them to come. But this is not just going to be the old man's perspective. It's going to be everybody's perspective before it's all said and done. But I'm grateful tonight that we had a chance, as our young preachers would say, we had a chance to chop it up about some things that we have experienced in our time as pastors and as preachers. And man, we could go for eons and talk about all the people who impacted us. And I'm hoping that those of you who are listening tonight, I'm praying that you have enlisted the names you've annotated for us, those names of persons whom you cherish, who've made impact on your life. And it doesn't matter, they don't have to be from this city, as the names, some we read were not from this city, where they're from. If you have some questions, concerns that you want to raise, and I'm hoping that it's about the Black Baptist preacher, or the Black preacher, and Black History Month, and not some personal beef that you might have with somebody else. That's another show. It's not this one. This one is about our developing again that camaraderie that we once had. I want to take this time to thank you again, my friend, my brother,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Joe Willis Theus. I want
Always
to
an
thank
honor, always.
our crew for being so kind and generous with their time and with their efforts. They really made us look good tonight, Dr. Theus.
Amen.
And so I'm looking forward to the next installment. Until then, you be blessed. Hey, Great Love, I only love you 2 times or twice daily. That's day and night. So I love and pray for you in both of those. Y'all be blessed. God bless you. Want to give a shout out to your church, Pastor?
To the members of Canaan Missionary First Baptist Church, I want you to know that I love you and I am here for you and available at your call.
Amen. Amen. God bless you. You have a great night. Be careful. Amen.